Picture this. The world's on fire, literally in New Mexico, figuratively in the Middle East, and politically in New York City. Oh, and your passport might just be the next battleground in the culture wars. Welcome to Lebo News, where we unpack the chaos of the world with a smirk and a side of existential dread. I'm your host, Lebo News, and tonight we're diving into 4 stories that prove humanity is one bad decision away from starring in a dystopian blockbuster. Let's get started before the world ends, at least before my coffee does. Let's kick things off with a classic American pastime, threatening to blow things up in the Middle East. This week, the US parked the USS Nimitz, an aircraft carrier the size of a small city, and a fleet of KC-46A refueling planes in the region, all because Iran and Israel can't stop lobbing missiles at each other like it's a particularly aggressive game of dodgeball. President Trump, never one to shy away from a microphone, declared, and I quote, "We have total control over Iran's airspace, but we're not doing anything, at least not this year." This year? Sir, it's June. What's the plan for July? A PowerPoint presentation titled Operation YOLO? Here's the deal. Tensions between Israel and Iran have been simmering like a pot of chili left on the stove since 1979. But recently, it's gone from simmer to full-on boil. Iran's been testing the waters, launching strikes, and the US is now flexing its military biceps to remind everyone who's got the bigger aircraft carrier. The USS Nimitz isn't just a ship. It's a floating metaphor for American power, 7 stories tall, 0 tons, and probably has a Starbucks on board. Meanwhile, the KC-46A planes are there to keep our jets in the air longer than a TikTok trend. Why does this matter? Because the world is watching. This isn't just about Iran or Israel, it's about whether the US is ready to dive back into another Middle East quagmire. The American public, still nursing a hangover from Iraq and Afghanistan, isn't exactly chanting, "Boots on the ground." And yet, here we are, playing chicken with a country that's been chanting "Death to America" since disco was a thing. If this escalates, we're not just talking about a few headlines, we're talking about oil prices spiking, global markets freaking out, and your gas station suddenly charging you $12 a gallon. So maybe stock up on bicycles now. Next up, let's talk about New Mexico, where 80 acres of forest are currently auditioning for the role of hell on earth. Wildfires are ripping through the state, forcing over 2 people to flee their homes faster than you'd run from a bad Tinder date. The state's thrown everything at it: 0 firefighters, the National Guard, and probably a few prayers for rain. Spoiler, it's not working yet. These fires aren't just a local tragedy, they're a neon sign flashing climate crisis in all caps. The images are apocalyptic blackened trees, smoke choking the sky, and families packing their lives into pickup trucks. It's the kind of thing that goes viral because, let's be honest, humans are weirdly obsessed with watching nature fight back. But behind the Instagram filters, this is a humanitarian disaster. People are losing homes, livelihoods, and any sense of safety. And with climate change turning forests into tinderboxes, this isn't a one-off. It's a preview of summer 2030, 2040, and beyond. So why isn't this the only story we're talking about? Because America's attention span is shorter than a goldfish's. We're too busy arguing about politics to notice the planet literally burning. If we don't start taking climate change seriously, like yesterday we're all going to be roasting marshmallows over the smouldering remains of our backyards. Now, let's head to New York City, where the race for mayor just got a plot twist straight out of a Netflix thriller. Brad Lander, a top candidate and the city's comptroller, was arrested by ICE's Immigration and Customs Enforcement right in the middle of an immigration court hearing. I'm sorry, what? Did we just teleport to a dystopian novel? 1 minute, he's advocating for immigrant rights. The next, he's in zip ties, probably wondering if this is performance art gone wrong. This isn't just a scandal, it's a political earthquake. Both parties are losing their minds, Democrats are screaming about overreach, Republicans are cheering ICE like it's the Super Bowl, and everyone's wondering how this even happened. Lander's a public figure, not an undocumented immigrant, so the optics here are, let's say, not great. ICE claims it was a targeted operation, but unless their target was maximum chaos, I'm calling shenanigans. Why does this matter? Immigration is the third rail of American politics. Touch it and you're electrocuted. This arrest isn't just about Lander. It's about the 11 million undocumented immigrants living in the US, the broken system that keeps them in limbo, and the fact that we're still using a sledgehammer to crack a walnut. Expect this to dominate headlines, spark protests, and probably inspire a few spicy X-posts. New York's mayoral race just became the most dramatic reality show of 2025. Finally, let's talk about a federal judge in the US who just told the government, hey, maybe don't force trans people to list their birth gender on passports. This ruling blocks a policy that required transgender individuals to disclose their assigned sex at birth, which, let's be honest, feels like the government saying, we don't trust you to know who you are. The decision's a win for trans rights, but it's also a Molotov cocktail lobbed into the already polarized culture wars. On one side, you've got LGBTQ+ advocates celebrating a step toward dignity and self-identification. On the other, you've got folks claiming this is the end of civilization as we know it because, apparently, a piece of paper determining whether you can board a flight to Paris is the hill to die on. Look, passports aren't just travel documents. They're a battleground for identity, freedom, and who gets to define normal. This ruling doesn't end the fight, it just reloads it for the next round. Why should you care? Because this is about more than passports. It's about whether the government gets to dictate your identity or whether you do. And in a country where freedom is practically a national anthem, that's a question worth asking. So, what's the takeaway from tonight's chaos? The US is one tweet away from a Middle East war, New Mexico's forests are screaming for help, New York's mayoral race is a circus, and your passport might just be the next front in the culture wars. If that sounds exhausting, it is. But here's the thing, the world doesn't stop spinning just because we're tired. So grab a coffee, stay informed, and maybe don't book that flight to Tehran just yet. Thanks for watching Lebo News. We'll see you next time, assuming the world's still here. Good night!